if the secret to growing an entire industry was simply connecting one person at a time? Today we're talking with a man who's made that his mission and earned GEAPS' top recruiter honor for 6 of the last 7 years running. Welcome to the Whole Grain Podcast, a show where we explore the people, ideas, and innovations shaping the grain handling and processing industry. The Whole Grain Show brings grain professional listeners together from 94 countries from around the world. I'm your host, Jim Lenz, Director of Global Education and Training at GEAPS, where the mission of the Grain Elevator and Processing Society is to champion, connect, and serve the global grain industry and our members. At GEAPS, we work to be the global community and thought leader for the grain industry, which feeds and fuels the world. Today's guest is someone who truly embodies what it means to build community and leadership within the grain industry. I'm joined by Scott Brittingham, MCGOM of Mountaire Farms and the Mid-Atlantic GEAPS chapter. Scott is a former GEAPS International Board member. He's also been recognized as a GEAPS top recruiter, a title he has earned 6 of the last 7 years. Scott has a remarkable ability to connect with people at all levels of experience and inspire them to get engaged, whether that's at their facility, in their career, or within the GEAPS organization. In this episode, Scott shares how he approaches recruitment with purpose, supports the development of future leaders, and continues to help grow the industry one relationship at a time. Let's dive in. Welcome, Whole Grain listeners, to this podcast episode. It's a special one as we have a guest who is Scott Brittingham, MCGOM, Mid-Atlantic Chapter, Mountaire Farms. He is the GEAPS top recruiter. He's a 4-time consecutive winner. That's why we are so excited to have Scott on the show. Scott, thank you for being a guest on Whole Grain Podcast.
It's a pleasure to be here, Jim. Thanks.
We want to take you through your journey in the industry, journey with GEAPS. You've been such a leader for GEAPS and just for the industry in general. We want to talk a little bit about the science of recruitment, developing industry leadership, and advice for newcomers. Things that you want to share with us about the industry, any personal reflections in that. And also I want to touch base on what I just stated, which was MCGOM, that Master Credential that you earned. So I want to do that before we go. But again, it's great to have you here. So if you don't mind, share a little bit of information about you. What has your journey been like in the grain industry all the way to what you're doing right now?
I got my start in the grain industry over 50 years ago at age 14. My dad was the manager of the Harrington grain facility here. And one day he looked at me and he said, "Go see your guidance counselor and get a work permit. You're going to work tonight." So that was my start. That was the beginning. And I worked part-time for my dad for many years, learning the business from the ground up. I was sweeping floors and loading truck and a lot of shoveling and eventually helping with operations. In 1993, I transitioned into full-time work and continued to grow in the industry, eventually becoming a regional grain facilities manager. My dad was the one who recruited me into GEAPS. He saw the value in the organization. He joined back in the early 80s, and he wanted me to be a part of it. That introduction, it opened the door to a lifelong connection with GEAPS and one that's helped shape my career and allowed me to give back to the industry. He used to ride over to Baltimore from Delaware once a month. I remember when I was growing up, and that was him attending the GEAPS meetings.
Was it the chapter meeting at the time?
Yeah, yes, okay. It was.
Was it called the Mid-Atlantic Chapter at the time as well?
It was, yeah. So that's what got me started. I ended up joining him in the local chapter and moving into the board of directors at the local chapter. I've been the treasurer for probably 20 years now or close to it, and it's been a fun ride.
Tell us about your current role. What is involved with that?
I work for Mountaire Farms. I'm part of their prime quality grain division, where currently I serve as grain systems and inventory control manager. I oversee flow quality and tracking of grain across our facilities. I have a strong background in computer technology, which complements my grain operations experience, which is what's led to my current role. So in addition to inventory control, I work with the integration, the implementation, troubleshooting of our software application. Of course, that means collaborating with teams to ensure our systems are running smoothly and supporting operational efficiency and accurate data.
Wow, very expanded role. Tell us a little bit more about your organization.
Well, Mountaire is the fourth largest poultry grower in the country. And as such, we own many grain elevators and feed mills. And so my role is to kind of ride herd over their inventory and to keep their systems working and integrate new technologies that are coming along all the time.
Can you tell our listeners how your GEAPS membership evolved into active involvement, eventually championing recruitment? Because that's what this episode is largely about.
Yes, sir. So after I joined GEAPS, I started attending the local chapter meetings and getting involved in small ways there. But over time, I realized how much I was gaining. It was not just professionally, but personally. That's when I decided to step out of my comfort zone and serve on GEAPS's international board of directors, which I did for 7 years. I got to go out to Minneapolis, and that experience gave me a broader view of the organization's impact and its potential. It also deepened my commitment to helping others get involved. I started encouraging everyone I met, millwrights, scale technicians, equipment providers, whatever, everybody I met to join GEAPS. And of course, in my own company, I encouraged new hires to join GEAPS as well. I wanted them to take full advantage of the education and networking opportunities that GEAPS provides, because I had personally experienced that. I didn't want people to just sign up. I wanted them to engage and grow and become leaders in their own right. GEAPS has something to offer every professional in the grain industry, and I make it my mission to help them see that.
That's fantastic. One of the first things you said was, I wanted to get out of my comfort zone. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I've always been a rather quiet individual. And so when I was on the board, I think I developed a reputation for letting others speak up a lot, but formulating a sound decision based on what I was hearing. And most of the time, I would only speak up if I thought I had something really relevant to add to the conversation.
I think that's just a good thing to listen to, because I think that's what people need to do to learn and grow, no matter where we're at, is to get out of one's comfort zone. And so you became very engaged and active. You increased your contextual understanding. You saw what happened at the chapter level and how that's very positive. And you took an effort to learn broader perspective, as this is a global membership association to support the grain handling, grain processing industry. And so you found that there are great opportunities. And so let's talk about that next step, the science of recruitment. Let's unpack your approach to member recruitment and engagement. Deb Most, who's been with our chapter programs, and she's a chapter manager and she's a membership manager, been with GEAPS for a long set of years. She said, Scott has this down to a science. What's your secret to consistently recruiting new GEAPS members year after year?
Well, first of all, I think of GEAPS membership as a tool, and it's a valuable tool, and it's something that I want to share. It's a resource that can help someone grow their career and solve problems and build lasting connections. So when I talk to people, I don't really pitch it like a sales job. I share how it's helped me and how it can help them, whether it's access to training or networking or leadership opportunities, education. GEAPS gives professionals the tools they need to succeed. I make it personal. I ask them about their own goals, their own challenges, and then I try to show them how GEAPS fits into that picture. And then I follow up. I invite them to meetings. I introduce them to members and help them to feel welcome.
That's fantastic. I was just going to ask next, what do you actually say or do when introducing GEAPS to a colleague or contact? I think you just said it there. Or if there's anything different, because I know there's a lot of listeners out there who are in a position where they've been active with GEAPS and they want to encourage others to do that. And they just want something like really practical. What do you say?
I usually start by asking, have you ever heard of GEAPS? And quite often, a lot of people haven't heard of GEAPS. So I explain that it's a professional organization for people in the grain industry. Place that's been around for nearly 100 years now. Place to learn and connect and grow. And I share my story and how it's helped me. And there's been numerous instances, and I often relate them to times when I was up against something going wrong or something being broken. And I called a fellow GEAPS member, and they were able to, in some cases, fabricate something that would help me get through the current crisis. So you share stories like that, and I follow up by sending them a document that I wrote several years ago that provides background about GEAPS and outlines the value of members, from education and training to networking and leadership development. I include, along with that document, email is great. I can include a membership application right with them, and I tell them, if you're interested, fill it out, and I'll submit it for you. The personal touch does make a difference. It shows that I'm not just suggesting something to them, but I'm offering to walk alongside them as they get started.
No wonder you have been a 4-time consecutive winner of the GEAPS Top Recruiter for 2024. That is going above and beyond. That is fantastic. So you have.
Well, I think it truly demonstrates that GEAPS is something I strongly believe in, and it is something I want to share.
Yeah, instead of just kind of passing by, mentioning it, I mean, they know that you care if they receive this document, and then the detail of how it has helped you, and stating, everybody gets in crunches and has challenges, and if you can reach out to someone who may be at a different facility, it could be a vendor supplier, it could be in grain operations. It's just incredible that, and I want to put words in your mouth, but becoming a GEAPS member, this global membership association, does it make the grain industry smaller?
It definitely does. And I've had fellow associates who have gone to industry events in cities out in the Midwest and Far West, and I didn't happen to be there, but people would see the name tag that says Mountaire. They say, "Oh, Mountaire, do you know Scott Brittingham?" And that's because of my representation of the company in GEAPS.
That is fantastic. And what a tribute to, you're a very humble guy, but that is a tribute to your work. And I've heard that too. Been with GEAPS a little over 3 years, and that is coming up dozens of times. So that's fantastic. These are good nuggets that you are sharing with everybody here on the Whole Grain Podcast. Thank you for doing that. There are some other things related to science of recruitment. I'd love to touch base with you if that's okay. What kinds of professionals do you most often encourage to join GEAPS? What is a spectrum, or is there a target?
It runs the gamut. I look for people who are curious, motivated, want to grow, whether they're new to the industry or whether they've been around for a while. That includes scale operators and supervisors and managers, even folks in the maintenance or the IT department or the environmental department, safety department. There's all kinds of departments that support grain operations. So if someone asks a lot of questions or shows some initiative, that's a good sign. And I'll say, you'd be a great fit for GEAPS. Let me tell you why.
That's absolutely fantastic. I'm guessing it's happened to you. Doesn't seem like it's very common, but from those who are listening and those who are knowledgeable about GEAPS and are a member, they may have some level of communication about GEAPS and encourage them to join. Maybe they haven't taken it at the extent that you have, but what about answering the question that a listener may have, such as what are common objections or hesitations people have? And then how do you overcome them?
Well, of course, the most common one, and it seems to be increasing all the time, is I don't have time. And I get that. We're all busy, but I remind them that GEAPS is flexible. You can engage at your own pace. Even just reading the newsletter or attending a webinar can make a difference, Mm-hmm. Another hesitation I run up against is cost. What's this going to cost? And that's when I highlight GEAPS's recent adoption of the facility memberships. And I especially like to share that with the decision makers at companies, because it's a great option for them. They can have multiple GEAPS members under one umbrella at a lower annual fee. And it makes it easier for teams to get involved and benefit from the education and the networking opportunities together. So once people see how accessible and valuable GEAPS is, those objections usually fade away.
That's fantastic. So great use of the facility memberships. That's what Scott just mentioned. So I certainly will leave a link to that and other relatable things in the show notes. So thanks for mentioning that. Scott, let's segment over to developing industry leadership a little bit more. I want to explore your insights, Scott, into leadership development and engagement. You've been praised for helping others get active in their roles and in the industry. How do you encourage that kind of leadership development?
Well, number one, I believe in leading by example. They've seen me out there in the yard. I talk to all the guys in the yard. I'll sit on my tailgate and we'll have a tailgate talk and discuss maybe safety or something, whatever. I try to be approachable and supportive and always willing to share what I've learned. That's one of the big things I have right now is I've accumulated 50 years worth of knowledge, and I want to dispense as much of that as I can along the way and help others to, make their journey. So I look for opportunities to involve others, whether it's asking someone to help plan a chapter event or encouraging them to speak at a meeting or even just attend a meeting. Sometimes people need a little nudge or as I tell Deb, sometimes an arm twist or whatever, and someone to believe in them. And that's what I try to provide.
That last part, you provide an opportunity for someone to believe in them, believe in their career, believe in their choices of choosing the green industry. That's fantastic. Can you share an example of someone you've recruited who really grew into their role or became more active in the industry thanks to your support?
Yeah. There's a young lady that I've been mentoring a little bit. And well, let me first say a little bit about mentorship. Career paths have changed in our industry. Today, more of our next generation of leaders are coming from management trainee programs and internships. They're bright, they're talented, they're motivated, but often they're dropped into leadership roles without much actual experience in the grain industry.
Mm-hmm.
That's where GEAPS comes in. It helps to fill that gap by providing a conduit to the knowledge and the expertise that's available from industry colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
Through GEAPS, they can connect with seasoned professionals and they can access training. They can learn from real world experiences. So that's what I see as part of being a mentor, helping these emerging leaders tap into the resources and the relationships that'll support their growth and success. But you asked me if there was someone who I could talk about specifically. Yeah, there's a young lady at Mountaire. She has very well-defined goals for herself in the grain industry and truly understands the value of networking. So last year, she accompanied me to GEAPS Exchange, and she, on her own initiative, sat in on various committee meetings. I had several of my fellow board directors come up to me afterward and say how impressed they were with her participation and her insights. She didn't just observe, she engaged, she asked questions, and she, made a meaningful contribution. Today, she's a member of a GEAPS education committee. So watching her grow and step into a leadership role, it's been incredibly rewarding. And that's what mentorship's all about, helping someone find their footing and thrive.
I know who you're exactly talking about, and she really is fantastic. A great add to the Education and Training Committee at GEAPS here and to the industry at large. I'm so excited for her future. She really is getting after things, and largely thanks to you and thanks to her family and her choices that she's made up to this point. So that's really fantastic. Now, advice for newcomers. Let's segment there. What practical advice or guidance do you have for early career professionals or those exploring the industry? What advice would you give someone who's new to the grain industry and looking to grow their career?
Well, actually, I do this all the time. I tell them start out by taking one of the introduction to the grain industry courses that GEAPS offers. It's a great foundation, especially for folks who are new to the field, and trying to make sense of everything. Mm-hmm. A few years ago, we had a young lady start as an assistant manager at one of our grain facilities. It was right at the beginning of wheat season. So we didn't have much time to show her the ropes. But I told her, I said, just absorb what you can from what's going on around you, and we'll get the rest taken care of later. So after wheat season, I had her take the introductory course. When she finished that course, she came back to me and she said, thanks. She goes, now everything makes sense.
Wow.
And that's the kind of clarity and confidence that the GEAPS training can provide.
That's fantastic. Great example. What are one or two things new GEAPS members can do right away to get the most out of their membership? Isn't that exactly it? Anything else to add?
Yeah, well, as I said, join GEAPS, take the classes. That's the foundation. GEAPS offers excellent training that can help you understand the industry and build your confidence level. Then attend some of your local GEAPS, whether it's a local event or even a national conference. These gatherings are where you meet industry colleagues, make connections, and meet so many friends who are powerhouses in the industry. And the more you engage, the more you'll get out of it, because GEAPS is that way. Everything you put in, you're going to get back. And so it's a community, and the best way to benefit from it is to be a part of it.
Well said. Thank you. A community. You just mentioned that there. You become part of a special community to support your own personal, professional development, to support your organization you serve, and help feed, fuel, and clothe the world. It's a fantastic community. Thank you for mentioning that. Now, as we kind of get closer to concluding here, I'm curious. You are just a really special individual, Scott, and I'm curious. You have a motor, Scott, and you are on a mission, and it's not at all self-serving. It's the opposite. You are looking to serve others in everything you do, and I see that at GEAPS Exchange. When I first met you at the board meeting and then Exchange, I did hear that story of how your dad helped you propagate an early age into this industry, which, that's so special that you actually mentioned that, and that really is a reason of how you got started. So, but that motor did not stop. And you mentioned 50 years in the industry. I can't believe that. That's not possible. Is that true, Scott?
It doesn't seem possible. Back in the day when I was a facility manager, I had hair down to my shoulders, and I called myself not your typical grain facility manager, and somehow I've gone from that to Mounaire's elder statesman, and I still feel like that young guy inside. So hopefully I'll stick around for a while.
I love that. So let's uncover that. What keeps Scott Brittingham motivated to do this work year after year?
Well, I really am motivated by all the great people that I get to work both at Mountaire and through GEAPS. The relationships I've been built over the years, they've all been incredibly rewarding. And I'm driven by the opportunity to share what I've learned over the past 50 plus years. If I can help someone avoid a mistake, solve a problem, grow in their career, whatever, then I've done something worthwhile. And that's my legacy, and that's what keeps me going.
Legacy. Wow. Fantastic. Thank you for all you've done, Scott. What are you most excited about for the future, either in the industry or within GEAPS?
I think what I'm most excited about is the technological and automation advances on the horizon. It's very different from the industry I stepped into when I was 14 and started my journey. The upcoming innovations in productivity and safety are going to be astounding, from automated systems to real-time data tracking. And we're entering a new era of efficiency and precision and customer communication. And GEAPS is right there. It's helping professionals stay ahead of the curve, offering training and resources that are going to support this evolution. So it's an exciting time to be a part of the grain industry.
Thank you, Scott. Great expression there. Now, you have earned what the acronym MCGOM, and for those who are not familiar with that, we have a credentialing program unique for the grain industry. This is the Master Credential in Grain Operations Management. That's what MCGOM stands for. It's earned by completing the CGOM and all three specialist credentials. And so the CGOM is a credential in grain operations management, includes completion of online course in management basics for grain facility supervisors, grain facilities planning and design 1, grain quality management course, grain quality management systems for bulk materials handling operations, the entry-level safety, and also materials handling 1 as well. And I said it includes all three specialists. There's a specialist in grain quality management, includes grain aeration, FGIS grain inspection orientation, grain drying, management of pests, and grain storage. There's also specialists in grain handling equipment management. I won't go into the courses. And then also specialists in property and casualty risk management. Those specialty credentials include the completion of 4 courses, and the CGOM involves 6, like I mentioned there. And I bring this up because you have dedicated time. You have taken time from your day, beside all of these other things that you have mentioned, which is full of nuggets. And this is going to be a great resource for those who are GEAPS members and grain professionals. And there's going to be a lot of takeaways from this, but also now examining the credentialing program for GEAPS. Can you reflect on that? How has it helped you amongst all these things? And for anybody considering that or wanting to know more information, can you kind of step forward and speak on that?
Absolutely. Yes. I've always had a lifelong love of learning. And as such, this was an opportunity that was attractive to me. And I saw it as also an opportunity to demonstrate to my employers that I was serious about what I was doing and I was wanting to grow and be someone who made a great contribution to the company and to the works going on around me. So that's what led me to pursue it. And the Master Credential is currently the highest level of recognized credentialing available in the grain industry. All of these courses were originally created by GEAPS and Kansas State University, and I set myself a goal of being among the first dozen people in the world to receive that credential. And as it turned out, I was the 12th person in the world to get the Master's Credential in Grain Operations Management. I felt really good about that. And it just reflects on Mountaire's level, their forward thinking and their support of my efforts, because they paid the whole way and they rewarded me for what I was willing to put in to obtain that credential.
That is fantastic. So you got the support of your organization, Mountaire, but also your personal drive to succeed and grow. That is a great testament. Thank you for sharing that. And for those listeners out there, you can just go to jeeps.com/training-education/credentials, or simply just go to online learning in there and you'll find the credential piece and it'll take you there and it'll showcase what Scott talked about. These are available 24/7. Wherever you stop, it'll continue where you left off. And so please take a look at the credential page on the GEAPS website. It's fantastic. Thank you for expressing that. Now, as we close, I just want to have one kind of final thing here. Again, what does it mean to you personally to receive the Top Recruiter Award for 4 years in a row from the GEAPS organization? That's incredible.
Actually, it's interesting you should mention that. It's not just 4 years in a row. It's actually 6 of the last 7 years. Yeah.
Wow.
We used to get rewarded with a leather jacket every year, and they assumed that correctly that there was only so many leather jackets that would fit in my closet, so they've been experimenting with some other rewards. But it's certainly rewarding to be honored for your efforts. What's even more meaningful, though, is knowing that you helped so many others along the way. So every time someone joins GEAPS and finds value in it, whether it's the education, the networking, leadership, that's the real win. The award is nice, but the impact that I have on others is what keeps it going.
Scott, thank you for joining, sharing your insights. You've reflected on key takeaways such as value of connection, mentoring, getting involved, supporting recruiting, not just those who are new, but those who are curious-minded and want to grow themselves. You see in conversations with people who are looking for an opportunity, and you have a very well-designed tools instead of instruments to take them to that next step and be active in the industry, being active with GEAPS. We thank you so much. Any closing sentiments from you, big picture kind of things as we conclude here?
Really just kind of the same thing I said. GEAPS is an outstanding organization, and if you're a part of this industry and you're serious about growing, you definitely should belong, and you'll get back tenfold anything that you put into it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Scott.
It's been a pleasure, Jim.
We thank Scott Brittingham of Mountaire Farms for joining us and sharing his insights, strategies, and passions for people and progress. From building strong connections to mentoring the next generation, his story reminds us that one person really can make a lasting impact on the industry and community around them. To our listeners, what's one step you can take today to grow your own network and help someone else find their path in this field? If you're not yet a GEAPS member or you know someone who would benefit, now is the perfect time to get involved. Explore GEAPS' professional development resources, credentialing programs, and member community at GEAPS.com. If you have not yet subscribed to the GEAPS Whole Grain Podcast in your favorite podcast app, I encourage you to do so, as podcast episodes will drop on your phone or your device as soon as episodes are released. Plus, you can easily catch up on all past shows as well. Whole Grain is found on Apple Podcasts, Google Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, Podbean, Pandora, and more. The Whole Grain Podcast brings together grain industry professionals like yourself from 94 countries from around the world. Be sure to share this episode of the news of the Whole Grain Show as an easy to access and easy to share educational resource with your network. But also can find the show on the GEAPS website at GEAPS.com/wholegrain. I'm Jim Lenz, Director of Global Education and Training at GEAPS. My email is james@geaps.com. We look forward to connecting with you to learn more about being a member of the Grain Elevator and Processing Society, to identify a GEAPS chapter to connect with, to learn about the vast portfolio of educational resources. Again, please visit geaps.com. Until next time, keep learning, keep innovating, and keep moving the industry forward. Have yourself a great day, and thanks for listening to The Whole Grain Show.